talk about this event in particular, because you've taken a lot of heat for going in the first place, and I want to push back against that right off the bat, because I do think if this election has shown us anything, is that Democrats do have to be willing to go into spaces that are more hostile to Democrats. Inherently, if we're going to look at expanding our coalition, expanding our tent, we have to go outside of that tent to be able to do that. So I disagree with people who think that you shouldn't be going there. I think we should be going into the most dangerous territory that we could. That's the only way that we're going to be able to really send our message the farthest. But I do take issue with one thing there. You said in that clip, I knew you guys were for real about fighting the establishment, and you give a bunch of a list of reasons, but you said it to a room full of people who voted for a billionaire in Donald Trump and who was funded by the literal richest guy in the world, in Elon Musk. So I understand and appreciate your argument that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are to establishment. That's a drum that you've beaten for years now, but isn't it insane to think that this Republican Party, this MAGA Republican Party, is the answer? Like, there are more billionaires in Trump's cabinet than...
Yeah, and especially in hindsight, like I said, he's just right. I mean, he's just really right. And it's not even just about the money. I mean, in hindsight, it's even better. I mean, Cenk was really serious about his... Okay, let's take it back a notch. This is Brian Tyler Cohen destroying Cenk Uygur for his grift. It was not his outreach. It was his grift. Trying to get that money, trying to stay in cool with the Republicans, with the new technocracy, the new tech conservative world and way of thinking, and just trying to bring back money to TYT. And that's just really what it was, okay? I do think that Cenk has a lot on his shoulders, and he's already still been making some pretty bad decisions. But we'll get into those bad decisions in a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, verbal beating that Cenk is going to receive from Brian Tyler Cohen.
Then the buffet line at Davos.
Yeah. So let's take both of those real quick. So number one, I'm going to talk to folks. There's a talking point that we have on the left that we don't realize is absurd, but it is totally absurd. They say, well, if you go talk to them, it legitimizes them. You know what legitimizes them? Winning the election.
Right. I mean, that ship has sailed, right? Like when people say don't go on Fox, as if millions of, as if we're the reason that Fox is suddenly going to be legitimized because on a network that millions of people watch on a daily basis.
Of course. And so, and they even won the popular vote. But the fact that they won the popular vote is very relevant because we have to win those voters back. And you can't win those voters back if you're not talking to them. So that's point one. Now, on in terms of the establishment, this one is a complicated and really interesting topic. So both sides claim that the other side is bad and their donors suck, but our donors are great. And I always find that conversation intensely absurd, right? So if you say to me the donors on both sides are bad, meaning like not that they're bad people, but that it's bad that this system allows for those kind of donations, which then obviously influence both sides, I say absolutely, 100%. So, but that means you've got to be honest about your own side. So you, as you pointed out, I've been saying this for about 20 years now. And so that's why I'm in the Bernie Sanders wing. And I think when Kamala Harris was bragging about how she had 90 corporate CEOs on her side, that was a terrible strategy. And when, she raised over $1 billion.
Okay, but Kamala Harris is not, what I mean? I just want to get back to the stuff that Brian was saying to him, because Brian was right about literally everything. I mean, especially in hindsight. I'm telling you, like, it's just insane.
I'm honest about it in both directions, and I say it to their face. And so I've gone on other right-wing shows and said, who's Elon, what's Elon Musk? He's a donor. He's the largest donor, over $250 million that he gave to Donald Trump. And now all of a sudden, he wants regulatory agencies that regulate his companies to be wiped away from existence.
Right.
That's awfully convenient, right? And then who's his donor? Third largest donor, Miriam Adelson, $137 million. If you take the Adelson family, Sheldon and Miriam, Sheldon's passed away, but before he did, they've given over $330 million to Donald Trump, even larger than Elon Musk.
Yeah, but you would never say Peter Thiel, though. So, all right, let's just, because the real discussion, I'm going to keep it real with y'all, is that Peter Thiel's protege, J.D. Vance, is being polished for 2028. So, while I have been so jaded about the voting process in this country, I won't poison you with my, my real thoughts about it. But what I will say is that if voting is what they say it is still, people better open their eyes up on both sides of the aisle when it comes to J.D. Vance, because that is the Peter Thiel protege that they are preparing for 2028 in every way. You notice he's not around Trump often, and I think it's because them two, they don't get along. Personally, is what I think, and it's best to just keep them away from each other. So, because Trump knows that all he's there for is to gun for the next position. I mean, let's keep it real. Once Trump is gone, it's going to be J.D. Vance. That's what they're going to push. They're trying to keep him squeaky clean and out of any type of crisis or issues. You notice everybody's coming after Trump. They don't say Trump Vance. They say Trump. And back in 2016, those kind of things, it was like Trump Pence. You saw Pence and Trump always together. So but Cenk can't talk about it because Thiel, he takes Thiel money. So please, Cenk, okay? Please. Just save it, okay? Miss me with your righteous indignation.
If you do, be careful about Elon Musk, Miriam Adelson, and every other donor that Trump has.
Well, I think that's where the point of contention is, because you saying this stuff is you operating in good faith. These people don't care. Like, there are no longstanding principles that they abide by. This is the purported party of family values, the purported party of the Constitution, of law and order, of states' rights, of fiscal responsibility. They will throw that shit out the window the moment, the millisecond it becomes inconvenient for them, and that's what they did. But you're saying these things to people as if they're operating under some principle that they should be against the establishment, that they should be against these donors, when they're not. The only longstanding principle is their allegiance to Trump. And so my worry is that, like, you trying to get through to them on these issues of principle is falling flat, because it's not principle that got them there in the first place. There is no longstanding principle when you are a Trump supporter. Yeah,
that's so true. We're gonna skip Cenk's response because Cenk is gonna make up stories that in hindsight don't matter anymore. You know what? I've said it before. What made me know that this really is a cult, right, is the whole thing about Trump on Truth Social posting the Houthi, bombing, and what they said were Houthi rebels. We don't even have the official statement on that. It looked like civilians to me. And then MAGA said, all right, this is what I voted for, base Trump, bomb them, And I was like, what is that? So war crimes are okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's base now, right? So it's just like, Cenk is going to say, oh, the base doesn't want this, that. No, they want whatever. Whatever Trump says, it's okay.
Their support for Donald Trump, who stands in stark opposition to the very thing that they purport to be against. And so I guess my question for you is, what's your red line to the point where you finally recognize whether or not the people who you were talking to at Turning Point USA's AmFest, for example, are not actually operating in good faith, and whether there is, against my earlier question, no actual longstanding principle, it's other than fealty to the God King, right? Like I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out here, because thus far there has been no indication that, even though they say they're for anti-corruption, Donald Trump's the most corrupt guy to ever sit in the Oval Office, even though they say that they're, for the list goes on and on, right? It's the list that we have spoken about earlier. But when will you stop giving certain people at this event, for example, the benefit of the doubt in terms of their actions not matching up to their rhetoric?
Yeah. So I think some things are clear, right? So, for example, we're not going to win on a whole heap of issues, right? So, like, if I try to convince them that the crypto bros are going in the wrong direction, I'm going to get massive blowback, and I'm never going to win on that.
Correct.
Okay. So that's going to take 4 years and probably us getting robbed to the tune of a couple of $1 trillion before they realize that mistake. Okay. So I'm super realistic about all of these different things. I think that on corruption, they're never going to want to admit in the beginning that Trump is doing favors for their donors. Although, again, I see right-wing hosts and people in their audience going, I understand what you're saying about Jeff Yaz and TikTok. I understand what you're saying about electric vehicles and Elon. So that's the beginning, right? It's not the end. So then my best guess is the anti-war stuff is where the rubber hits the road.
I knew he was going to say that. And guess what? It didn't mean anything. We are right now in the precipice of, like, at any minute now, Israel can decide to go ahead and attack Iran. There is talks about Trump hasn't ended the Ukraine war like he said he was going to do. Nobody is. I'm sure people at home who aren't online, I'm sure they're talking about it, but these paid propagandists like Tim Pool, like the ones on Twitter who are there to propagandize everything, say everything that Trump is doing is good, they are not calling it out. They're not calling out the fact that we are encroaching in so between not ending the war in Ukraine, which was never going to happen, and getting involved in another Middle Eastern war, like not ending the genocide, just everything. They say nothing about it, and they say it's my base. And all you got to do is tell them there's Terry's somewhere, and they're perfectly fine with it. And it is disappointing to watch. It is what it is. But, Cenk, sorry, you got this one wrong.